perhaps I'm not logging. Yeah, now.
Oh, yeah,
now
that's
it's
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so now guys, okay, so welcome to this admins meeting session. This is going to be the second session of January. So yeah, before we start, anyone want to do some announcements? Good. I have two announcements. One is very cool because since the last meeting we managed to create the Slack dedicated to open source. We're still dealing with invitations and some automations. We're going to discuss about that later on. But yeah, so that's a great first news. The other good news also, I tried to run a poll last week, if I remember well, in the open source channel that we have in the company. And there were a lot of people at least interested in kind of participating in this kind of meeting somehow. So potentially, I would like to, have a discussion maybe at the end of the meeting because we have a lot of topics today to see if there is any way to, kind of split the like panelists kind of thing, like the speakers, and then to have some kind of people can follow us maybe in streaming or something like that. So instead of just having the recording, so maybe we can let them participate kind of live so they can participate in the chat even or something like that. But yeah. We can technically figure it out, but I think the big question in terms of decisions is if we are happy with this kind of idea, like going more streaming and less recording, although it's going to be public anyway. Okay, I see some thumbs up. Okay, good. At least we have the basic approval. Fantastic. Yeah, let's jump to the agenda. So I reordered, I think, the agenda a little bit in terms of more critical things to less critical. Well, there is the initiatives at the bottom because I think start discussion of initiatives today is going to be hard, at the end of the meeting, but let's see if we have some spare time at the end. So first one is going to be baseline.
Yeah, that's mine. I did some changes because as I read in the GitHub documentation, we are able to add several health files at an organization level, so we don't need to include them in every repository. So I started with the code of conduct. I also changed the template that we wanted to use to make reference to the Slack organization. So if anybody has anything to raise up, they can use the organization. And I will follow with some basic contribution guidelines, perhaps the code owners. We can also include several other files such as security and so on. So we need to think about basic templates that we can start working with. And then if we want, we can improve them because we only need to improve them in one single place. That is the organization level, and we don't need to care about having them in multiple places. The only thing that it's not possible to use at organization level is the license. That needs to be in every repository. So I have added that mid license as we agreed in the template of the repo. So that's all the things I've done during this week related to that.
Yeah, that sounds super good. Yeah, I also have a suggestion that maybe we can go in the line for security for the base templates. There is this OpenSSF scorecard kind of things. We actually try to start doing some actions to improve the score system in Node. And I think we can learn something from that because one of the cool things they have is they have some automations in place that, for example, check if your main branch or master branch is protected and which level of protections do you have and many other things that are quite interesting, So maybe we can include also the reference or at least the typical, continuous integration GitHub actions related to that. So we can, even if you create a new repository, you already have some kind of what's going on regarding security scorecard.
And which is the name you said about that?
It's OpenSSF SSF scorecard. Let me see. So is this website? Actually, it's very clear. The documentation is quite good. If you go down to the sections where they say the problems they try to mitigate. So, for example, the idea here mostly is about, malicious maintainers. Like, for example, if one of us become a bad agent, that can be the kind of things that you try to prevent here. Malicious packages, source code compromises. This is interesting also, especially if you use binaries or things like that, which can happen in some of the stacks that we use. And also some problems with the build systems, So, for example, one very cool thing that I learned was what about to use GitHub Actions instead of with the version with the hashes of the version that you want to have. So you don't have any kind of, they replace the version with a new action with a malicious payload, for example. So in that kind of cases, especially if we don't use all the GitHub Actions from official entities like GitHub or NPM or things like that, and we use users one, might be interesting to have this kind of thing. So also you have some kind of, questions they try to answer, with this is like, how much is this project maintained in terms of when was the last commit, that's the continuous integration running against the last versions and things like that. So it's a lovely one. And I think solved tons of the things that we discussed in previous meetings regarding on how. So maybe, we can explore this a little bit.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, so next topic. I think I took that one in the past. Is I think it's the 21, which is related to prototype pollution for a library called JSON5, which I think we use it indirectly in one of the systemic related packages, sub-dependencies kind of thing. So I don't think we use it directly. The idea was to see if we need to do some kind of patching around it and make some security releases or not, if they are affecting or not. So I wanted to lead the initiative, but actually I changed priorities last 2 weeks, so I didn't have bandwidth to take over for this. But if anyone, want to jump in and lead the initiative, I can provide some support, and
I can do that, as I'm almost done with the code template, or at least the main part. I can take a look, but give me some. We can discuss it internally, so you let me know what should I do, and I can.
We can have a side discussion for this. 100%. Okay, that's good.
But sorry, prototype pollution. Isn't it inherent on everything, on JSON parts, not only JSON5? Sorry, I'm just asking.
It was, I think the last years, recently, there was a lot of rise of concern of prototype pollution. So, for example, in Node, they made some modifications on the source code itself, just preventing specifically, the use of prototype, proto, all this kind
underscore proto,
Yeah, exactly. Other libraries didn't do that. Others, yes. So you still have some in the middle that are not. So big systems, big players are already putting some mechanisms to prevent it, but not all of them. So JSON5 is apparently one of the ones that.
So basically, we either see if there is a patched version or we remove the need, because if it's a hidden dependency, if it's a dependency of a dependency, it's hard to fix.
It's hard to fix. I mean, there is an option to using the Pendabot, if I remember well, because you can actually change it on the package log for many of us. I don't think we use it directly, so that's okay. So it's going to be a jump. But the problem when we do the jump, and that's going to be a long discussion with Inigo offline, especially later, is going to be if we break any kind of compatibility or not. So we need later on to make some releases around it. But I think should be fine. With how far I end with my last research, the feeling was positive, but we need to figure out in details and releasing things. Cool. But I don't think right now it's going to affect us heavily, but just to check it around. Sebastian, sorry.
I just wanted to point out something. Having libraries in your projects that have been reported as vulnerable to prototype pollution in this case, but not only, it's general vulnerable. That doesn't mean necessarily the project or the application that you're creating is vulnerable as well, unless there is a vulnerable method detected in using that library. It's good to know these and to keep an eye on them, but that doesn't mean automatically you're vulnerable. And I think whether updating or not, this should be taken into consideration as well, because if the package is maintained, there's nothing wrong with it. There's no our specific application or project, whatever that may be. We know for sure, for certain that is not vulnerable to that, and we take it into account. Then there is but there's the lower security risk. Ideally, if we can update and not introduce breaking changes and then so on, and we're sure that the new version is stable, secure, doesn't have licensing issues and so on, then fine. But I just wanted to make the difference between, package that has a vulnerability reported and
affecting us,
and it being affecting us or not.
I see your point. I saw the point 100%. Yeah, I think also one of the problems that we might have with this kind of thing is other people will see our project, as potentially inherit vulnerability, although we don't use it, so in terms of automations and things like that, people will say like, oh, one vulnerability here. So the thing that is just, to have an issue and say like, look, we check it out. No, we are not really affected by that. We are going to release patching, but, easily or not, because in any case, we have to do some patching on dependencies for most of the systemic ecosystem and the rest of the project, honestly, because some of them, they have dependencies from a long time ago. But the key thing for us is, as you say, we use it directly anywhere. If not, then check it out how critical it is to patch. And that's it. That's good. Okay. Are we okay if I jump to the next topic?
Just a second, because for example, I use Trivy for the vulnerabilities and in the project that I'm working on. And for example, today it raised a new vulnerability in a package that I'm using. I went to the repository of that library, and they said that even something similar to what Seb has just said, even if the vulnerability has been reported, it will only affect in your projects if you are using a specific function. So as Ulises said, I think that the best approach is just getting rid of that. But in any case, we can keep in mind that if that's not possible, or we foresee any problem, we can add into the documentation of that specific library that perhaps the vulnerability doesn't affect to you if you are not using several methods of that package.
Good. Okay, jumping to next topic. So it's going to be 22. So basically, for those who are not aware of this, we used to have some kind of bot accounts, and that we used it in the past to handle some of the NPM publications, GitHub issues creations, tokens kind of things, just avoiding using personal accounts due to many reasons. So yeah, I'm trying to recover the access to the last account that we use. Actually, is the same that we use to publish the NPM packages. So in most of us, we also have some individuals, we also have access to publish packages. So there's not a risk, but it's going to be cool to, just get a proper access to the account. So I managed to get access to the GitHub part. I managed to get access to the actual email and make it work, because as we change some of the domains, we have some problems with incoming emails, and then I have some problems to restoring the account. So I'm fighting now with the NPM support to restore the account and re-enable the second factor authentication. Once that's ready, we are happy to go, and also I will rotate the tokens. So just to be sure. So that brings me to the next topic, which is the create a secret management repository. That's something that we need to find out, unless we have a better solution pre-built, like the typical, I don't know, 1Password kind of theme or something like that. But if we don't want to go that direction, there is a library built by the same people, I think is Stack Exchange, the ones that create Stack Overflow. They have a tool called Blackbox, if I remember well, which is based on PGP. And the idea there is you can have a repository where you can actually store your secrets or whatever, and all is using PGP and has some mechanism to prevent you publishing the secret, row and all of that. And you can have control version over what's going on, although you cannot see the changes, obviously, in raw, but you can see who changes with secrets to who and all of that. And we can include the PGP keys for the people that should have access and remove them later on. And so it's a fantastic way also to store, tokens that we have burned in the past, So for example, if we expose one token or something, we can store it also like in a burned repository file, so we can track these kind of things and prevent the reusage. And I used it in other projects and was a good idea, so that when new admins come, join or leave or things like that, we can, easily get access to the secrets as well. That provides us some options to use automation. So you can, if you have some bots account, also you can have some access on the repository. So you can include on the CI. So you clone the repo, you PGP then encrypt the files, you can use it, attach to Kubernetes, this kind of approaches. So that's also useful to keep a good .env kind of thing. What do you think? Are you happy with this idea?
Yeah, definitely. I think having it as a repo simplifies everything. We don't need to ask for one password account or anything of the like, and
yeah,
it gives you versioning out of the box because it's a Git repo. So yeah,
and pull requests when you change tokens,
exactly,
things like that, or secrets, or everybody knows, and we can recheck it. Although it's a little bit annoying to encrypt the crypt when you review it, but yeah, it's better than just change and propagate it. So. I promise I will create the repo with no secret at all at the beginning. I will do some demo to see how that works. So see if in the practice we like it. And if we like it, then I will add some of the secrets and stuff, and we can define the list of the people who should access. But in general, will be like the infra and admins kind of things rather than everyone in the organization, obviously. Okay, so that was topic 30. There are two side topics, which can be a little bit tricky. One is the 29. So I was doing some, well, let me jump to a separate one. There is the 27, which is a Unify license repository. We agreed in previous meetings that we are going to use MIT license for everything. So I was manually patching and doing pull requests all the repositories that we have in the 1 Billion organization in general, just to be sure that we have MIT license. So most of them, they have it, so that's okay. Other doesn't, so I just jump in. Some didn't have a license, others have a different license, or they have a MIT license on the README, like in the repo level, but in the package specify something else. So I patch most of them. There is a discussion ongoing, which is going to end, I think, soon, and then I'm going to repatch it about, putting the GRs and ownership in the licenses, because I just overgraded to 1 Billion, but the idea is to have something like the periods, so it was like GuideSmith from that year to that year, and then from 1 Billion from that year to that year. So we follow the same as Express, for example, or Node.js or things like that, where it was a transfer of the ownership of this repository. So I will repatch my patch and all the patches distributed, and hopefully I can make it, and you will get millions of notifications. Sorry for that beforehand. And in the same way that I was patching the licenses, I discovered some discrepancies that might be interesting. So then jump to the 29. 29 is issue where I created a very simple list of NPM packages that we have published in the past, and they have some kind of mismatching between what we have at repository level in terms of tags and what we have, or releases, and what we have in terms of NPM publish. So for example, let's see, you can have, the version 1.01 in NPM, but not in the repo. So, and things like that. That's because in the past, we didn't have automation to publish. So in some of the cases, there were some human errors. I mean, nothing to worry about in terms of, malicious or some actions or something. It was more like a lack of automation. So yeah, my idea is to do kind of a patching and, see tags missing, map that out from the Git history, create the releases appropriately, and the same for NPM, if we lack any of the releases also. So just to be sure, I just fixed one of them, but there are still 3 of them open. This is also open. If anyone wants to help me with some of those, also, I'm very happy to share. So just say or reply to the issue, and we can, split the task between many of us. And the same goes, well, a different problem that we have for other repositories, which is the 28th. We have some packages that, again, due to lack of automation, when we create some of the packages, we didn't manage the ownership, the authors allow it to publish. So in some of the cases, we don't have the option to publish with the account that we use for the tokens, right? So we need to get in touch with the people who has actually the ownership right now and ask them to include the bot, so we can, the bot user account in NPM, so we can just manage the releases of new versions. So yeah, that's going to be another little challenge. And also we can use that opportunity to invite them to these calls. So that can be a good win-win and to the Slack channel. So that may be a good kickstart of the reconnecting with prior maintainers. Super happy to get support on that one also. That's okay. Yeah, we have like 4 more minutes. So last thing is going to discuss about the initiatives. I don't think we have a lot of time now just to go over all the initiatives. And also there has been a lot of offline discussions about what are going to be the goals. So I think maybe we can split a little bit the goals, in terms of what we can achieve as organizations, in terms of managing all the open source that we have. And in the other hand, also the objective maybe for, systemic related things, Confabulous related packages, Monaco related packages. So I think maybe we can start discussing about that. So just a quick reminder on that, there is an issue open, which is the issue 20. Feel free to add your ideas there, and we can make a specific meeting discussing about that if we are happy with the idea. Go ahead, Inigo.
Yeah, perhaps on this one, as it's something that we want ideas from different people, perhaps we can, before even having a separate discussion, because we can publish it in the Slack organization so people are aware of that and can have ideas asynchronously and bring ideas to the meeting, because if we create a meeting and people are not aware of that, perhaps nobody comes with ideas for that.
100%, yeah. That's good.
Carlos?
Yeah, I mean, I missed the previous meeting and I'm sorry, I haven't watched the video yet. So like, have we already discussed about deprecating like really, really old open source projects that nobody maintains and nobody really think that they bring value? Just because on the list of all the migrated repositories, I see some that are like 6 years old, no commits, nothing at all. And maybe there are some sort of baggage that we can just deprecate and focus on new things that we are keen on maintaining.
I agree. Yeah, maybe we can, prepare a roundup with the maintainers and, do some voting about what to keep and what to clean. Also, side note on that, some of the very old packages that we didn't maintain for a while, they got some forks from actually some of the clients, and they actually got very and they made very advanced versions of them. So maybe also another option is to discuss with them and, just try to see if those forks are, good enough, and then just remerge it. And that's it, and try to find a conciliation with that. And, having just a single package with all of us involved, including the people who created the fork. But yeah, so there is a lot of research, but I'm very happy to deprecate packages that nobody actually use. I see the point of, if a library hasn't been modified for more than 6 years, potentially nobody's still using it. Also, if you see the, number of downloads per month is like, or per week is like 3 or less than 10, maybe it's a starting criteria of thinking about that, right? So yeah. And then we can reduce a lot of effort on maintaining infrastructure, checking the Pendabots and getting annoying but million of emails about every package that got deprecated. And yeah. And this also opened the opportunity to discuss soon about the versioning. We have, I think, a lot of problems with the versioning in Systemic sometimes because you start, I don't know, like a systemic PG, so you start with a specific version of PG, and then we need to, kind of how we are going to relate to this kind of libraries wrapper around something else and how we evolve the versioning. I mean, there's plenty of discussions for that, but with less repositories in scope, easier to move. So yeah, we are going to deprecate heavily things. Yeah.
Cool.
That's good. So I think we last of the time. So yeah, last thing, questions, anything that you want to add to the end of the meeting, additional notes?
No, I think that we have a lot of things in progress. So I think that let's see if we can start closing them so we can open new ones before proceeding. Because if not, we are, right now we are a few people, so we can't try to cover a lot of things, because if not, we are not going to do nothing. So
we start to segment it.
Yeah. And let's see if more people join the Slack community, and they can start contributing if they want.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Should we keep the same frequency of meetings, like once per week kind of thing, or once per 2 weeks? How do you feel?
I think that every 2 weeks is okay, because normally, as we also need to work on the client projects and so on, perhaps in 1 week, sometimes we don't have enough time to work on initiatives, and in 2 weeks, normally, at least you have some time to do so, and we make some progress to communicate to the rest.
Yeah. I'm happy with the idea of moving for 2 weeks and, put some offline notes if you make some progress on Slack, for example. So
now that we have a Slack, that's okay. That's great. Yeah.
Good. So so let's change the frequency to every 2 weeks. Well, so then see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Thanks, Ulises.
Okay.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.